give us your sort of top 3 or 4, if you like, tips that people should do and not do when they're online. But
what the hackers will try and do is create a sense of urgency. You know, you've got to get this done now. You know,
within their phone nowadays. Yes. What should people do to secure just their own personal cybersecurity?
I try and teach everyone to be careful. Don't click on the links.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. It's Friday the 8th of October and it's episode 89 today. Today we're going to be talking about cyber security, how to protect your money with the very people who do that here at True Potential. If we're going to talk about cyber security, we need an out of this world panel, and we've got one. Let's meet them. Jeff Caston's back for another podcast. It's 2 or 3 in a row for you, isn't it, Jeff?
3 in a row I think we're on now.
Oh, hat-trick. Good. Too much of a good thing though.
Too much of a good thing indeed.
Absolutely. And a couple of
next week.
Say again?
I'll not be here next week then.
Where will you be? Are you announcing something, Jeff?
I'll be on holiday next week, so that
oh, I see. Right. I was getting worried there that you were making some kind of grand big announcement on the podcast, but never mind. Couple of debutants as well this week. Let's meet them both. David Reed's on the podcast. Hi, Reedy.
Hi, Peter. Thanks.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Pleased to be here.
Do you mean that?
No.
What we've done wrong to get roped in
Oh, well, you'll find out over the next half an hour or so. And Aaron Chater as well. Good to see you, Aaron.
Good to see you too.
I hear you've been writing in wanting to come on. Is that right?
No. Usually just keep me out of the way, out in the background. Really. Yeah. I'll try not to swear. Hopefully there'll not be as many edits as when the Chief's on. So we'll just blast through it.
Should be good. Yeah, and we do have a bit of a tradition when people are first on the podcast, which is it's your first time on the podcast. What else have you done this week for the first time? I'll come to you first, David.
Oh, for the first time this week? I don't know. I think my first webinar was about a week ago, so I do feel like I'm being punished a little bit at the minute in terms of public appearances. Yeah.
What was your webinar about?
About CNext and the new client-facing systems that we're building at the minute. So we've got that launched across head office at the moment. We're into that phase of testing. So it was just to kind of explain to people what's going on then.
Very good.
Bring it along.
Some quite exciting stuff in the pipeline as well on that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to say too much about it just yet.
Yeah.
When will we hear more? Give us a little teaser.
So there's releases going out over the kind of coming weeks. Further releases to head office, further releases into TP Investor. But we'll actually cover some of the points that are in there as part of the cyber security discussion as well.
Good. And same question for you then, Aaron. What else have you done for the first time this week?
Getting up early. I'm a bit of a late riser, so I've been trying to get up at 6 o'clock every morning, go for a bit of a run, take the dog out. So that's the only thing that I've done differently this week. But looking forward to get this come on here and get this done. Yeah,
we've got lots to talk about. And on a serious note, I mean, cybersecurity is a major thing, and obviously we deal with a lot of people's money here, and we take it very, very seriously. So we'll talk about that and give people a bit of an insight into how we do that. But Jeff, we talked last week on the podcast about HGV, driver shortages, petrol shortages, just everything seemed to be short last week. But I haven't quite seen as much of that this week. Does that mean that did we solve the problem last week? People tuned in and we solved it? Is that what happened?
Well, I'm not sure if many people did take up their HGV licence, but an interesting point there is my father-in-law's an HGV driver, 75, and he got a call from the DVLA this week to see if he would like to drive. So the process does seem to work. So I thought that was so there probably is still a shortage there coming through. The other area where we've seen, I suppose, that shortage being more evident this week has been in energy prices, particularly natural gas prices, where we've seen quite significant moves to 20%. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday of this week? So shortage there, definitely working its way through, and that has been that theme that we discussed on last week in terms of what's been driving asset markets, very much about that inflation backdrop. Is inflation going to be slightly higher than people have thought? Yesterday we heard from the new economist, the chief economist at the Bank of England, and his assessment on it for the first time, suggesting that from a UK perspective at least we might have slightly higher inflation for a more prolonged period of time, which presents interesting challenges for central banks, but also for markets, and we've really seen that over the course of the past month, the past week as well, in terms of what's happened in sovereign bond yields, where they've continued to move up. So the volatility's still been there. It seems to be a thing that occurs at the start of the week now, and then over the rest of the week markets try and recover. So we had a very volatile day on Monday of this week, particularly in equity markets, and then we saw a recovery through the rest of the week. So more volatility, I would say, than potentially we've seen. But I think it's also worth thinking about that in just the context of where we've got to with asset markets, where they're sitting today relative to sort of their all-time highs, how volatility has evolved over the course of the past number of months, continued to trend down, then picked up a little bit. So it's probably no bad thing. It kind of reminds everybody that markets don't go from bottom left-hand corner to top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
There's a journey, and it speaks to how we think about the true potential portfolios, using diversification to navigate through that journey, to mitigate some of that volatility. Then the other thing we always touch on, sort of the US jobs report and the direction that might send markets. That comes out today, so we'll get a read on that. But given the last month's report, where economists were looking for around 700,000 jobs to be added, and it came in around 200 to 300,000, shows you the margin of error. So we'll see what happens later on today and how markets react to that.
I mean, you mentioned there and last week some of the volatility there's been in the markets in the US and so on over recent weeks. Is that to an extent cyclical? Do you get that at this time of year? Is there any pattern to that or not?
There is a bit of a pattern where sort of September, October can be slightly more volatile months as people come back from holiday, start to reassess, think about their positioning into year end, but also look forward into thinking about, well, what is our expectation for the following year? What are we thinking about for 2022? And you start to see that be enacted within portfolios, people making change. The other thing, I suppose, into the end of September, quarter end, so people making changes to portfolios there, and then coming out the other side. I suppose into this year end, probably the key thing there is around how central banks are going to respond to higher or more elevated levels of inflation, really, and expectation being that the Federal Reserve in the US will begin their reduction program in November. The comments yesterday from the Bank of England economists, maybe the UK starts their tapering as well. So that, I think, will be the real focus for markets, the direction of that and what that implies for interest rates into next year.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, people who watched the podcast last week would have seen David and Daniel on. They're not here this week. Apparently, they're someone yet Oldham, I think, just driving their HGVs and
getting their license.
Taking stuff down to. That's it, yeah. So good luck with that, lads. We'll see you next time. Right, let's get into cybersecurity. First of all, maybe, Reedy, if you wouldn't mind just explaining a bit about what you do at True Potential. It's your first time, people wouldn't have met you before. So what do you do here?
Yeah, so my role and my title is Head of Group Applications, and what that means for me is I oversee the development of our client and advisor facing systems. So the most recent kind of major build that we've completed was the vNext upgrade of kind of V6 and V7, bringing that up to the latest technologies, but also giving it a new lick of paint in terms of the end user experience, as well as bringing features in and kind of enhancements to make it easier than ever to use. Right now, we're working on CNext, and you can see how imaginative we are with our version names. And that's really the next iteration of the client-facing systems. So we have our own client websites and mobile apps at the moment. What we're doing there is we're bringing them all up to date. We're consolidating the features across them all, with a view to going forward we can release new features and enhancements quicker than ever, really. So it's quite an exciting time for the development team, and certainly in the kind of the run up to year end, it's a busy time for TP Dev.
Yeah. And you've been at TP since day one, pretty much, haven't you?
Yeah, so I came over to TP with the directors from Positive Solutions when we set up. So founding partner and all of that. But yeah, so over the years I've worked on started off at Positive Solutions actually as a junior developer, working on some of the valuation engines and some of the kind of the document generation systems. And then over time, just kind of come along with the team, really.
So you've been involved in the build of the entire system, which looks very simple from a user's point of view. Well, I hope he's written it down somewhere. But when people log into the app and the website to look at their portfolios and see how their money's doing, there's a lot of coding and work gone on behind the scenes that an awful lot which you've been involved with the whole back, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And from a developer's point of view, it's been really exciting to be part of. Typically, a developer will turn up to work and write code a lot of the day. But one of the things with TP is we have developers with the ability to work at all layers of the infrastructure. I was talking to Jeff not too long ago about how we're moving to the public cloud and how our systems are hosted there. But all of that's driven from within the development team. So all of the foundations right up to what we'd see is the small part that people see on the front end. There's actually a lot of kind of infrastructure and code going on in the background.
Yeah, I suppose that's the key distinction, isn't it? It all resides in this building here in Newcastle.
Yeah,
that's
none of it's anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's huge for us. It's what allows us to do things like vNext and CNext so quickly. We control everything in that kind of pipeline and chain there. So it's important for us to control it.
It's a good point. It's a really good point, because if there are any tweaks need to happen or changes need to come in or whatever, or just developments that you want to make, we're not waiting for someone else outside this building to have to do it.
No, it can be done within a day sometimes. That's the good thing about us. If we've had bugs before, we've had advisors raise a bug, it's come to the support team, raised up to us, and I fixed it within a day, and then it's went up to a QA environments, get ready to test it, and then it's put out to the live clients, and that can be resolved, rather quick.
Yeah, in this building.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it's a good point in terms of the speed and agility, but the other thing as well is it keeps us unique and differentiates us because we build all of our technology ourselves. If we have some innovation or we build an enhancement, we offer that to our users and our end clients, but we're not offering that to our competitors. So again, it's a great differentiator for us to be able to move quickly in line with the business, but have unique features for end users as well.
Yeah. And Aaron, you're very much in the sort of security part of the system, aren't you? So tell us a bit about that.
I joined here about 7.5 years ago now as a junior. So everything I've learned, this man's taught us. He's taught us. So what my daily routine is just basically making sure everything that the development team have built is safe and secure. It's a top standard that we build to, but I just go around basically just checking to make sure that everything's secure, tight. There's a tight ship, and then we send it off to a client. So I can hack during the day, or I can be I can be monitoring systems.
I was going to say, you sound like you could be a dangerous man.
Yes, I've been on the wrong side of this. Probably why I haven't been sacked yet. So, I love my job. It's just basically everything with cybersecurity. I've got me finger in each pie, really. Love my job. It's not a job, it's a passion. So every day I get up looking forward to what we're going to learn the day, really.
What the challenge is going to be, what you're going to find.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a bit like you guys. It's every day you've got to get up and see what's changed in the world. Well, our systems are massive, so every day we've got to keep up to date.
But you are like our, if you like, you're not virtual security guard, but you are here like this literally protects the business and and make sure that the systems are absolutely.
And it's more yourselves as well. I try and teach everyone to be careful. Don't click on the links. At the end of the day, your mobile phone is the most personal thing you own. And it's a computer at the end of the day, and hopefully our teachers enough that will keep that secure. And in turn, keeps our system secure, and in turn keeps the client money secure as well.
Well, let's touch on some of this then. So when people use the word cybersecurity, what is it? I've got an impression in my head of what that means. I suppose it means people not being able to hack into my stuff, fundamentally. Yeah. What does it mean to you? How does it differ for someone who works on it every day?
The best analogy I can use is a house. So someone builds a house, Reedy and the development team will build the house, and you put security in place. So obviously you go around and you put your windows in, make sure you've got locks on there. You go around, put your door in, put your locks on the door, depending on how many locks you want. You go around, put a fence up, and that's my job, is basically just to go around and make sure that these are there. You've got a window in your house. You don't want someone just climbing through your window and stealing your stuff. It's the same with security systems. You just want to get the foundations there and then build the security around it. So your locks, you would have CCTV, your nuts and bolts, really. Everything that keeps your house secure. Essentially, that's what cybersecurity is.
But I guess the difference is, though, in a house, there are only so many ways in.
Yes.
But I'm guessing that in the digital world, there's forever new ways that people could get into systems, and you've got to keep ahead of that curve, right?
Every single day. Yep. So we've got thousands of components. So imagine thousands of windows. It's a skyscraper, is our systems. And each window, we've got to make sure that it's locked and bolted, and that's what it is. It's basically making sure that every component is secure and up to date.
I think the other thing on the back of that is, to use the analogy, if you're talking about a house or a skyscraper, in your head you're imagining something that's already built. As I've just explained, we're constantly building, we're constantly innovating to bring out the next kind of new feature and enhancement to the system. So it is a full-time job to just keep iterating over it and saying, look, are we still secure? Has anything been missed? So yeah, the point is the job's never done, and certainly from a kind of a malicious point of view, those malicious attackers never kind of have a rest either. So they're always looking for new ways in. So we're always looking for new ways to stop them. So I think that's cybersecurity from a system point of view. But the other kind of way to look at it is actually you have almost a personal cybersecurity obligation to be fair. And by that what I mean is, in the same way you lock the doors on your house, or maybe you wouldn't leave your valuables on display in your car. Everybody should be at least mindful. It's not something you need to be worried about per se in terms of, oh, someone's going to hack me and that type of thing. But we should be mindful about what we're doing. So if you receive an email that you weren't expecting and it's from the prince of somewhere and he's offering, you just send your bank details.
What, you mean I shouldn't have done that?
No, maybe not, but it's... it's just be mindful about kind of what you are doing online. If you didn't expect something, just double check it before you action that, and use the technology features that will help enhance your position.
I think it's a great way to think about it in terms of that skyscraper, in terms of innovation.
Yeah.
We're always building more.
Yes.
But then we need to put that, there's more ways in.
Exactly.
And Aaron and the team need to prevent those ways.
How closely do you guys
exploited.
work on a day-to-day basis? Because you must be in a way best friends at work, because you're building it, but you want to know that he can't get into it. But you've got the challenge of making sure that you're trying to find the way into his system.
On the side.
So who wins?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's you could say it's a love-hate relationship, to be fair. So if you look back at Aaron's history as well, he started off True Potential as a software developer,
right.
and he learned how we build our systems. So he gets a bit of an insight into kind of some of the mistakes that we could fall into making. So he has got a bit of a head start in that sense. Yeah. And then he stepped over to the dark side in terms of the cybersecurity and not developing. Yeah. But in terms of how close we work, it's every day. Every time we build something, we have our own internal testing that happens, and then external. And
who normally wins? I want to know. Do you normally able to get into his stuff, or does he build it so hard that you can't?
No, it's really secure. I'm not just saying that for the podcast, but no, we build. We're the best in the industry without a doubt. Yeah. So far advanced, but nothing major really. But that's the whole point of my role, is catch that before it gets pushed live. So obviously when you're building a house, you're going to have a snag list, and all I do is get that snag list and go, there you go, Reedy, you fix that, see you later. So I just give him more work, and then he fixes it, I come back in, actually have a look at that, and then go back out.
It's
so
amazing actually, because even in the 10 years I've been here, I've never been aware of any cyber issues. I mean, you might tell me that you've saved them or that they've been avoided.
Oh, I've saved them all. Yeah.
But from someone else in the business, and also from a client, because I'm also a client, I've never been aware of any technical problems at that level, which is but therefore I've never had to really think about what you guys do at that level, that you're there every day trying to just keep that safe. So it's kind of good. I find this enlightening, because I've never thought about it before. Never had to.
I think it's a kind of a testament to the success and the structure that's there, because that is the aim of having the kind of the internal security team in place. As an end client, you shouldn't know that that's going on. And actually, with regards to being on a podcast, there's things that we probably wouldn't talk about or make public knowledge in terms of what we actually do internally, because again, that could be used as information that might be turned around. But it's actually good news to hear that you haven't heard of a problem. And when you going back to kind of who wins, or kind of who wins the arguments, well, I think the answer is that cybersecurity wins every time. There's absolutely... There's no way that we'll put a development out if we know there's a cybersecurity risk there. It's just it's not an option for us. So from my point of view as head of group applications, with deadlines to hit in terms of delivering a project, if there's a cybersecurity risk being identified there, and that might take a week or two to resolve that, that's what has to happen, and it's the deadline that slips, not the security.
But there's a trade-off, isn't there, between making something so difficult that nobody can get into it.
Yes.
But a user's got to be able to access their. People don't want to go through reams and reams and reams of layers of security just to check their portfolio. So how do you strike the balance between making it simple and easy enough for a client that it's just not sort of cumbersome, but being very secure as well?
It's a double-edged sword, really, because we won't apologise for adding security, because at the end of the day, it's your money.
For our benefit.
You know, but we don't want to have 10 layers of security where it takes you half an hour to log in. You know, that's not a good user experience. So it's a balancing act of just, you know, usability and then security. So we've got some security features that'll be coming in the new See Next, but we just won't apologise for it. You just get it in, and each iteration, it just gets better and better and better.
Yeah, really. And I think if you look at some of the innovations that we've got coming in the new versions of the apps, and to be fair, actually, a lot of this is in the current versions as well. We use technology to enhance the user's experience in line with enhancing the security. So right now, we're working on stronger customer authentication. For the See Next build, it's actually already in the current kind of app builds there. So we do things like biometrics on your phone, which is an innovation that's been around a while, but that's integrated into our apps. We use the third-party authentication, whether it's an SMS message or a push notification to a mobile device, and we use things like trusted tokens and things like that within your app. But actually what that means to you as an end user is you open your phone and it logs you straight in. So it's actually easier than ever. So it's great from your point of view, but it's also great from Aaron's point of view, because the underlying security in terms of that login process has been enhanced as well. So it's something that we've got some great design teams in as part of the dev team as well, and it's always at the forefront of what we're doing. Is we can't have a system that's so secure no one can ever use it, or no one wants to use it because it scares you away. So it's always coupled with, well, how do we use the technology we have available to make the end user experience as slick as possible?
I suppose that's the crucial thing, isn't it? The business has evolved with technology at its heart, and that has been continued to be that evolution. And it's about how do you get that to us, the end client user, and that best user experience. And I suppose, again, if we'd had disparate teams, a team there doing that, a team over there doing that, you probably wouldn't have got the same result.
Exactly.
Because it's how do we corral these different bits together, whereas everybody in the one location. Yeah,
you see other people, not necessarily in the same industry, to kind of to put a point on it, in that there are other companies out there who don't have their own technology team, but they've had to kind of enhance their cybersecurity posture as well. So what they've done is they've brought in additional third-party apps and sites that you have to open this app first to get into this site, and from an end user's point of view, that's not great. So again, it talks to where we are in terms of our own development team. Is we know what we need and we're able to build it ourselves without having to rely on somebody else to kind of cobble that together for us.
And this was the week, of course, that Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp all went down for a few hours, but if you're active, it probably felt like a long, long time. Was that a security issue, or was that just an error, or what happened there? Because I think we all felt it, but we wouldn't know. You would know closer what actually the issue was.
My understanding was it was a misconfiguration. So to going back to what we're talking about earlier, where we're constantly innovating and we're constantly building on top of the system that we have. That goes to the same for the likes of Facebook and Instagram, obviously. And I think, unfortunately for those guys, they actually made a mistake when they were rolling out one of their updates. But it just gives you a good insight into what kind of implications that can have and how that can disrupt people's normal life. So in that scenario, it wasn't a security issue; it was just a misconfiguration. Right. But looking at it from our point of view, if you did have a security issue, one thing you might do is take the system down for a period of time while you resolve it, and look at how much disruption that caused for end clients. So it's something we're keen to avoid.
What you don't realise as well is a lot of Facebook is integrated with other apps where you can log in using your Facebook. So if we had third-partied our login function, say after Facebook, for that 6 hours, you wouldn't have been able to log in. Right. So all of these different websites went down because you all linked into Facebook. The good thing with True Potential is we build everything in-house. It's not firing off to other
I know what you mean when you log into something. Do you want to log in with Facebook, or do you want to log in with Google and stuff?
That a whole lot.
Do you think is that makes life easier in some respects, but obviously you've just outlined the problem.
That's everything's integrated. So and there's a lot of bottlenecks in the internet. It only takes one of them to go down, and pretty much you see what you saw with Facebook.
And is there? I mean, just talking more broadly in the financial services industry, we've talked about true potential, but I mean, how do you think we compare, or how do you think the industry compares in terms of cybersecurity? Is it ahead of the curve? Are there some aspects of financial services that perhaps have got a bit of catching up to do? How do you see the industry?
I think it from a general technology point of view, not even necessarily cyber security. I think if you look at true potential technology in comparison to, say, what an independent financial advisor might have access to in terms of what systems he could give his own clients access to, we're certainly ahead of the game there in terms of, just by clicking these buttons within your advisor-facing system, your end client has immediate access to the client portal and their apps to see their information. Obviously, as we know, a lot of people are lucky to get a 6-monthly statement through the post. And that goes hand in hand in terms of where we are with cyber security. So right now we can see the Payment Services Directive, which has been delayed a couple of times. That comes in early next year. One of the things that mandates a stronger customer authentication. We already have that in our apps. We're enhancing it further for CNext. So again, from my point of view, as kind of one of the development leads, is we're quite comfortable and quite pleased with our position. It'll be interesting to see how others out there can catch up when we know their technology isn't built in-house, it's maybe outsourced, and are they going to have downtime, or are they going to bring in a third app to try and get users into their sites as a bridge of the gap?
To your point, Jeff, I mean, True Potential was founded on a digital first fashion. You know, everything we've done has been that way. So of course the work that Aaron's doing, David's doing, and the teams are all doing it's all been there in one way or another. I mean, obviously things have developed, but it's always been there. But for a lot of other, let's say, older, more traditional financial services companies where a lot more was paper based, you can see that their technology doesn't work even on the front end. You try and log in, things don't work, or you hear stories of migrations and stuff that have just gone wrong. So the back end must be a concern as well. I mean, you know, do you pick up a lot of those kind of stories in there?
Yeah, well, we integrate with other firms and we see what their technology is like, and it's nothing compared to us, you know. And it's just how agile we are. How quickly can we interact with other companies? It takes months of backwards and forwards from other places as well.
I think the other thing, without naming names, I know you attended a conference not too long ago with some of the major players within the financial market.
Did you have to break in, or?
No, I had tickets.
He stuck his head in the window to listen to what was going on, but it was a bit of an open session in terms of, well, where are we all in terms of our cyber security and the methods we use? And we actually came away with that pleasantly surprised, where you might think traditionally these guys sound a lot bigger than True Potential, maybe been around for a lot more years, they might have a bigger book of business. But I know from speaking to yourself and Steve, who's another guy on the security team, we were really pleased with where we are in comparison to others in the industry.
Oh, we're miles ahead. It's just because how quickly we can develop stuff and how big our team is as well. We can just adapt to changes, you know, and it's got someone like me and the rest of the security team keeping up to date with all the news. And same with Reedy, he spends his entire life, you know, learning, researching for that new bit of technology that we can then incorporate.
I'm guessing yours is not a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job. If things
no,
go
it's
wrong,
it's 24 hours a day.
3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, so you must be always.
So we do have a team that's monitoring the systems 24/7, and obviously if something is spotted major that I think this could be an issue, I can get a phone call at any time during the day, and it'll be getting up and logging in and verifying that information. But it's the love of the job, really. It's a passion. That's what makes it so exciting. It's constantly changing. No 2 days are the same, really.
What keeps you awake at night? What's your biggest worry?
Well, the more I've got to understand and know systems and learn about security, the less worried I am now. Really can say this. Obviously, when I first started, everything was a fire. But now, the more I get, the more knowledge I get, I know, we're in a sweet spot. So for me, nothing keeps us up at night. I sleep very well.
That's very good. It's good to know, because I suppose when you think about, you know, if you bring it back to an equity market perspective, and you see companies that do experience cyber issues, it does have a real material impact on their value. So you could attribute some of that to what happened with Facebook, to how Facebook performed this week, but then you look at some of the other bigger issues that have been out there where companies have been locked out of their systems, or they've been locked out of a pipeline in the US from an oil perspective. That's major ramifications for their business, but also has major ramifications for investors when you see the stock price react to that type of activity, or the blackmail that comes into it and things like that. So there's real business implications for it, but then there can be real market implications for the company as well if they don't have their cyber policies in the right way and don't have their systems secure in the way that we're discussing here.
Yes, it's been a bad week for Mark Zuckerberg, hasn't it? I believe
it's not been the best, probably.
Well, I would like to have some of his problems.
It's not from quite a high level, it has to be said. But
that's also true.
I think from my point of view, in terms of what keeps you up at night, I think we've talked a lot about what the development team does, and even outside of the development team, we've touched briefly on, we've got various layers of security that almost come before and after where the development of our technology is, again, as more locks and bolts on the doors, as an example. What keeps me up at night is just genuine mistakes, people sending usernames and passwords over emails and then wondering what's gone on when somebody's somehow got into another system and the details are all there, and again, some of the enhancements we're doing will make that a lot more difficult.
And so how should people do that then? I mean, I was going to ask this, get into maybe both of you, give us your sort of top 3 or 4, if you like, tips that people should do and not do when they're online, but not sending emails and passwords over unsecured emails. How should you do it?
Yeah, so you shouldn't really. So there shouldn't be a reason for me to be telling you what your username and password is, or you to be telling me what your username and password is, because it's yours. It's almost the same as you say, give me your bank card or give me your wallet full of money, and letting me kind of wander around with it. It's
not full of money, really. I don't have that issue.
But yeah, I think for the headline for me is just be vigilant. People of true potential will know very well Aaron's motto. I'm sure it's written along the side of his car about don't click the link. And again, it's just, if you didn't expect that, well, maybe just give it a second thought before you push on, and just be careful. You don't have to be worried about it, and use the technology to make your life easy.
Just common sense, really, and email me if there's ever an issue. So what the hackers will try and do is create a sense of urgency. You've got to get this done now. I've seen emails come in that's pretending to be the chief and say, look, I want you to transfer 1 million into this into this bank account. And it gets sent up and they go, wait a second, this doesn't sound like David, which we all know what he sounds like. We're like, that's definitely not him. But we do get these sort of emails come in, and it's just constantly training users. That's how you see us send these emails out I don't want to inundate you with them, but it's saying, look, this is the method that they try, and this time, be wary. We've had someone try to impersonate Steve Hutton, trying to get your phone number.
Nobody can. I mean, that's easy to spot because no one could possibly impersonate Steve Hutton. There is only one of those. What should people do? Not so much thinking about true potential necessarily right now, but just in general life. We're all online, as you said at the start. Everyone's phone is the whole life exists within their phone nowadays. Yes. What should people do to secure just their own personal cybersecurity?
So it's simple, really. It's not complicated. So keep things up to date. So whenever you get an update come through your phone, it's there for a reason. There's some security issue that it's fixing. Yes, they may be adding some new colours to the update, but it's a security feature probably underneath. Keep that up to date. Don't use the same password across every site.
Why are we all laughing?
So, but
there might be some of that.
But if you lose it on one site, I'm going to try it with every other site. So if you've set it up on Domino's one Friday, and then Domino's gets hacked, you've lost that password across all domains, and then they'll just try everywhere. So one, don't use the same password. 2, use 2-factor authentication. So once we get it set up, you'll get a text message sent to your phone. So when you log in, if you've lost your username and password, they don't have access to your phone. So that text message will come in and say the 10-digit code. The hackers don't have access to that, so then they can't get access to your systems. So don't repeat your password. Enable 2-factor where you can. If remembering passwords is too hard, use a password manager. So it's a little app that you can put on your phone or on on your browser, and it saves all these passwords and the secure passwords that like they'll save. Be careful what you post online. You know, everyone's on Instagram, on Facebook, and they're posting every aspect of your life. Like, don't do it. Like, these details that you're posting online, your address, your date of birth, your mother's maiden name, they're all security questions. You know, if I can ring up your bank and go, oh, by the way, he has these details, and they'll just go, yeah, we've reset your password, or here's your details. So just be very, very wary what you're posting online. It's just common sense. If someone can use it against you, don't shout it. You know, I remember years ago, we used to have a caravan up sea houses, and if I was ever in the back garden, I'd go, we're going to the caravan this weekend, my mum would go, you know, shut up, didn't let the neighbours know that the house is empty. Well, what we do now is we go on Facebook and we shout to the world, by the way, my house is going to be empty from the 5th of May till the 10th of May. If anyone wants to come and rob,
it's available.
Feel free.
Just post it when you get back, so you can say you've been.
It nulls your insurance as well, so when you do get robbed, you kind of claim back because you've went online and you've told the world that your house is empty. Be very, very wary.
I think the don't have the same password for everything is there's a reason why Jeff and I chuckled a little bit. I know what we're doing after this podcast is over. It's like quick. I need to have some more children. I think of some more names for passwords, but or maybe just use a password manager.
Password manager.
That'll be cheaper.
Password manager.
And is there? You talked a bit about the hackers, and again, I'm not thinking about True Potential because I know you guys are here looking after it, so I'm not worried at all about that. But you know, if there is ever a big international thing, it hits the news, and we all pick up the paper or watch the news, and you read all about these occasionally when these things happen. Hopefully, not too often. But are they just, in general, are the people who are doing this stuff, are they just looking for attention and a bit of mischief, or is it?
It's a big business. It's a
right.
multi-billion-pound business.
Right.
Yeah. So the hackers will have offices not as good as this one, but they will have offices where they start, and you can see what time they start hacking. It's 9 o'clock, and you can see when they stop hacking. It's 5 o'clock. It's a business.
Right.
It's not just some kid sitting in the basement.
Yeah.
You know, it's a massive billion-pound business.
Yeah, I think in the majority of cases as well is what these hackers are doing is they're almost using a shotgun approach in that they're attacking everybody and they're looking for the weakest link and they're going to go in that way. Obviously, you hear about state-sponsored and targeted hacking. Fortunately, I don't think any of us would be a target of that. So in general, what these hackers are doing are looking for the easiest target. So just be careful and make sure you're not the easiest target by following things like not having the same password on every site and so on, because it is business. These guys have got to get a result or move on to the next target. Do I get a result there? No, I'll move on to the next target. So just small amendments to what you do, even having kind of a concept for, rather than having a weird set of characters for my password, maybe I always use a similar phrase. Don't use this one, but this is my password for Facebook. So it's quite long, but you could change that for every
How did
site.
you know that?
Yeah.
Password 1.
Yeah, but it's things like this of just making yourself move yourself up the list of targets, and rather than being kind of the low-hanging fruit.
I suppose you do see it as being, it is a business, as Aaron says, when you see some of the demands that are made of corporates to get themselves released from something. It's not several £100,000, it's millions of pounds.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a real cost. They have to pay it.
Yeah.
If you want your system back, you need to pay it. And it is a big business for a number of people.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, it's good to know that you're here looking after it. And it's not just, obviously you work very closely with Reedy there, and he develops something, you check it, and then only when we're happy does it get released. But I mean, these people you're talking about in the world, they must be constantly coming up with new. How do you keep on top of that stuff? How do you keep ahead of them?
Constantly Twitter, threat intelligence, keeping up to date of all the news.
Don't give us away your entire secrets, but
that's how hard it is. It's a constant cat and mouse game. Every morning I'll get up and I'll do my research, just like yourself, and I'll send the IT, I'll send Steve, we need to fix this, this is vulnerable, can we get this updated, and it's just constant. And it's not just one window and one lock on the door, hundreds of thousands of them, and there's lots of different moving components. That's what we're paying us for, just stay ahead of the game. And it's a passion, so I'm not just finishing at 5:30 and then, back in the house and today. I'm constantly learning new hacking techniques, the news, and keeping up to date. It's never ending.
Yeah, and I think from a True Potential point of view as well, we have partnerships with quite large firms who this is the only thing they do. So as much as we've got our own internal research and protection, we've got these external firms as well that we work with who have teams of people like Aaron and his team at their end, but they're also using things like artificial intelligence over logs and kind of zero-day attacks and things like that. And anything they find, they'll then cross-reference that with some of our infrastructure to say, oh, actually, a vulnerability is being identified over here with client ABC, but actually your infrastructure could be vulnerable to this, so we think you should patch it as well. So it's just an ongoing task, really.
Yeah.
Never ending, which is good. You know.
No, I
suppose as everything's evolving, it has to evolve with it. It has to stay ahead of it. It doesn't even evolve with it. It has to stay ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, well, look, I'm not going to ask you whether you've ever hacked into Reedy's phone, because I think we all know the answer to that. I feel really reassured by the whole thing. As I said, it's one thing that in all the years that I've been involved, I've never ever thought about it too much. Yeah. Other than when you log in and you see that, as you say, putting passwords and stuff in, but I've never given much more thought. And you perhaps don't realise that you're here, effectively thinking about this 24/7, or you and the team are. And a client wouldn't either, and we like it that way. We don't want clients to have to worry. You made the point earlier. Yeah. We don't want them to have to think about it. Just to, what they really want to know is that Jeff's looking after their money, and when they want to check on it, they can. And that's exactly what we're striving to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely
good. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that little walk down cybersecurity lane there, and hopefully it's not one that we ever have to walk down too often, but it was good. It was good to, good to get an insight. Oh, I didn't mean that about you. You're welcome back anytime.
Come back
you're welcome back anytime. So it's the weekend's around the corner. We always like to wrap up by asking what you've got planned. Really, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend for me, I've got gardening work to do, which is horrendous, really. Because
your dad not coming around to do.
No, my dad's.
Don't shout over the fence that you're going to see houses. Right? Don't do that.
I'll definitely not tell the neighbours. But unfortunately, we moved into our house not too long ago. Yeah. And I'd said to my wife, look, I'll do the DIY inside the house. I'm not interested in flowers. For me, we'll just put a lawn across the garden. Obviously, we ended up with flower patches and things like that, and now it's my job to dig them out. So that's my weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enjoy creating your fence.
There's a Kevin and Perry night going on at a local pub near mine on Saturday, so I'll be heading towards that in my shirt and recovering for the rest of the week.
Or will you be Kevin or will you be Perry?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Come on, Jeff.
Similar. I'm going to be out, not at Kevin and Perry, but in the garden. We've got time of the year, tons of leaves coming down, so that'll be me.
Wow, we'll move
those.
Showbiz life at Stupid Essential, don't
we? Really do.
Yeah. Oh well, good.
What about you?
Well, actually, I'm going to a posh dinner tonight. Because I've got to get my posh suit on, because tonight...
Not next suit, mind.
Not a neck suit. It's not a neck suit. It actually isn't. It is
expensive.
No, it's not one of them either. No, today's the annual dinner for the Harrison Centre for Social Mobility.
Excellent.
So we talked about this in the podcast before. I know you've been involved with some of the work we've done through the Harrison Centre and the Harrison Foundation. But tonight, people will know that the Harrison Centre's got basically a school in Sunderland, working with young people down there, trying to get their lives sort of back on track, and actually some of the students we've had through the Harrison Centre over the years, I mean, there's thousands of people go through there every year, have come here and perhaps would be really interested in jobs in IT and developing and cybersecurity. It's certainly one of the sort of jobs they always ask about is, can we meet some of the teams? So tonight it's the annual awards, so we're going to go down there and give out some awards and hopefully have a good night and a bit of music as well. I don't think Kevin and Perry are going to be there.
I can turn up.
Well, more the merrier. So yes, and so perhaps a little bit of recovery tomorrow. I might spend some time in the garden tomorrow. But I won't.
Takes me a weekend to recover now.
Does it?
Oh yeah. It is.
Oh, tell me about it. Right. Okay. Well, look. Thanks very much. Really good to see, and I hope you enjoyed your first podcast as well.
Oh, yeah, it was lovely.
It's good to have you on. Say it like you mean
see how good the editing comes out.
Thank you, Aaron, as well, for your insights and as I say, the work you do. And Jeff, good to have you back as well. And we'll not see you next week, but hopefully not too long. Thanks very much for tuning in to this week's podcast as well. And if you want to make sure that you never miss a beat, you know what to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and you won't. But until the next time, it's bye for now.
Subscribing to the True Potential YouTube channel is quick and easy. Simply go to the channel on your desktop or through the YouTube app on your phone and click the subscribe button. You can then press the notification bell symbol if you wish to be notified as and when new videos are released. Doing this is a great way to keep yourself updated with market developments and personal finance insights. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and we look forward to continuing to help you do more with your money.